Hello everyone and welcome to this new part. In our previous part we have worked on the author section. We have created a form that allow us to add new authors, and we have component for displaying the author list, and we have the ability to delete an author, but we left out the upload file, which we will work on it in this part, in this video. We also worked on the edit the general book information. First thing, we will work on this photo here. We will allow the user to upload a photo. So first thing here, if I go to my author form, which is responsible of displaying here this form, I can see that here I have the input type file. First thing, I want to add a restriction for this file. By adding the accept attribute, I can specify the MIME type of accepted file. Here it will be image/star. It will accept any type of image, whether PNG, JPEG or GIF. Now I will add an EMG element. This will act as a placeholder. So once a user select an image from his computer, it will be displayed here in the image tag. So the default source for this file will be a placeholder image, which I have here. It's profile placeholder.png. I grab it from the internet. Now I need to import this file image. I will name it profile emg from profile. Actually, we need to go back one directory. Profile placeholder.png. Now the profile image here object, I can use it as a value for the src attribute. Plus I will wrap the wall image in a figure element, and I will wrap the wall image and input in a div element. This will not look perfect, but it is acceptable. Now I will limit the width of the image to 100, let's say, and 20. Alright, something like this. Now here's the input file. Once a user select an image, it will fire a non-change event. So they don't fire a non-change event once the user select an image from his computer. We can listen to the on-change event and give it a function. Once the event fires, the function will be called. So I can do here an on-change and give it a function. Let's say handle file. This function will be called with the event parameter. So I can create here with constant handle file, which will be a function that receives the event. Now I can console log the e.target.files. Alright, this will be an array of files. In our case, we'll allowing the user to only upload a single image. So the file will always be a single file. So if I choose now an image, I will see here my file, an array of 0 elements. So to grab my first element, I will specify the index 0. Now if I choose the file, I get the object file. Now this object file, we will work on it to load the actual image as a usable URL for our image element here. This image URL will assign it to the src attribute, and the image will be displayed instead of this profile placeholder. So the first thing we need to get a reference to this element here, so we can be able to manipulate this DOM element. So first, to be able to reference an element in React, we need the use reference. I will import use ref from React, and I will create an image ref. Alright, an image ref object that will contain the result of use ref with the default null. To make this object reference the image here, we'll create ref which will be equal to emg ref. Now, emg ref, we can use it anywhere in our function here, in our functional component, to reference our image element here. First, I need to load the image inside the files. So to load this image, first I'll need to make sure it is actually an image, not a PDF file or any type of file. So I will create a condition if first I will put this value here, the object file, in a constant. I will name it file, constant file, which will be equal to e.target.files 0. Now here I will check if file dot type dot starts with image slash. If the type of the file start with image slash, so it could be image slash png, image slash gif, but it need to be of type image. So if it's an image, we're okay. Now if it's not an image, we need to return. So we'll quit the function. Now here, once we are sure it's an image, we need to create a new file reader, constant reader equal new file reader. The file reader will allow us to read the image object provided by the DOM and load from it the actual image, whether as blob or as a URL file. Once we have the reader, we can use a function on the reader which is called read as data URL. As you can see, you can read it as binary, as array buffer. So I will read it as data URL to use it in my image element. Now I need to pass it the actual file. The reader will read the file and transform it into a data URL. Now to grab this data URL file, I need to listen on the onload. So reader dot onload, and I will assign to it a function. This function will be called once the load has been finished. It will be passed the event which will contain the result of the data URL once the load has been finished. So here I need to use the image ref, and I will assign the src attribute the result, which will be in e.target.result. And one thing here I forgot is to add the current. So image ref dot current will contain the current image, the current element that have the ref assigned to it. If I refresh here my page and select an image from my computer, alright, I get the image displayed here instead of the image placeholder. Now we have the image in preview. What we need to do next is save it to our Google storage bucket. Now before doing this, we need to set the author state to contain also the image. Here the author state is used in the book authors here. Here is our author state, and we are relying on this author once the form is submitted to add the author to our current book arrays. So now we need to add a check for the image. If the property photo in the author object contain a value, then we'll upload before saving the object to our Google storage bucket and get the reference to the image to save it along with other data for the author. Once a user select a file, I will assign it to author state. Here, once I successfully load the image, I will set the author to any value already available in the author object plus the photo value. Now, in my browser, if I make some changes and go to my component tab here in my developer tool and go to my book authors, I can see that my state here is an object that has a photo attribute. Now I will modify the photo attribute, or I will assign the value of the image to photo attribute here, e.target.result. So now once I select an image, I should have here the data stored in my state. So this is great. Now we're ready to save this object to our Firestore and along with it the selected image. Now the user can select an image and see the image here displayed in an image tag. What we will do next is start the process of uploading the image to Firestore. Now here we are saving the selected file, the file object inside the author state, which we can, the author state actually it's in the book authors. So in book authors we have the state of for author, and here we see the image data saved inside this state as a photo property. So now we can go to our book authors, knowing that we have the image data in our state once a user select an image. Here in our onSubmit function, we can start the process of saving the image to Firestore. Now, before we start the process, we need to resize the image. So to resize the image, we need to rely on the HTML canvas, which allow us to reposition the image inside a fixed size canvas and take screenshot of this canvas and transform it into a blob file or a URL file, for example. So first, let's start by creating here a canvas. So usually the canvas will be code generated, but for our testing purposes, I will start by creating here a canvas with an ID of AMG canvas, just to see what we are doing. So I will set a height of 250 and a width of 250. We will remove this later, but for now we will keep it just to see visually what we are doing. Before saving actually to Firestore, I will stop the process and here add the code that will resize the image. First we'll get the canvas, alright. Second, we need to add an image to this canvas. So first we need to get the context, constant ctx equal canvas dot get context, a two-dimensional context. Now we have the context, we need to add the image to the context, but the image we have here in author.photo is a base64 file image. We need to transform it into HTML image. So first we'll create a new image, and we load into this image our base64 file. So will image.source will be equal to author.photo. Now once the image is loaded, image.onload, it will be equal to a function. Here we'll use the image to add it to the canvas context, ctx.draw image emg. Now we need to position the image on the canvas using the x and y, so 0 for the x and 0 for the y. Now we need also to set the width and height of the image. It will be 250 just for to show the image. Okay, here it's lowercase onload. So now if I select an image and submit, alright, I'll see the image inside the canvas. As you can see, the image is stretched to fit the canvas. Now what we need to do is resize the image in a way to fill this size. So first we need to check the width and height of the image. If the emg.natural width is larger than emg.natural height, then we draw the image. If the width is larger than the height, now we fill the height of the image with the canvas and we calculate the width proportional to its 250 height. So we can multiply 250 with the natural width divided with the image natural height. Here I will put the multiplication into parentheses. So in case else, if the natural height is more than the natural width, I will do the opposite. So the width will fill the canvas actual size, and the height will be calculated proportional to the width. So let's try it. Let's add now another photo. Alright, as you can see, the image is resized proportionally. There will be of course some cropping, but it's filled the whole canvas proportionally. One thing is left is to center the image. We need to crop it here in the middle. So I need to calculate the x and y of the image. In case the width is larger than the height, we need to calculate the x. So the x will be the half of the size of the masked area. So to get first the masked area, we'll need to subtract the current image width minus the width of the canvas. So the current image width, this one here. So I'll put this calculation into a variable. And it will be half the current image width minus the canvas width. So it will be like this. In the other case, it will be for the y, the height minus 250 divided by 2. Here I need to get the mass dot absolute number in case if it's negative. The same for the other one, because the masked area could be lesser than the width of the canvas. Or here I'm using it need to be h. So let's try again. So let's choose an image that is the same image, and if I save, first it should be minus, and here minus. So here is our image actually centered. So we crop from here till here. There is some small space up and down that are from both sides. So now we're cropping the image from the center. Next, I need to get the blob object from the context, canvas dot to blob. This will require a function as a parameter. The function to blob will run this function and pass down the blob object. So inside this function we have the blob object. We can work here to save the blob object inside this function. Now before continuing saving the blob object to Firestore, I need to refactor this code to move this code into its own function. We'll name it resize image, and we need to create the canvas programmatically here instead of having it in our browser. Now before proceeding, I need to do some refactoring to prevent, as we can see here, what is called in JavaScript callback hell. So I will rely on the promise to prevent myself from getting into callbacks after callbacks. So as you can see here, our first callback is on image load. My next callback is to the one for the to blob canvas. Next I will need to add the save image to Firebase. We may have another also callback. So to solve this, to make the code more readable, I will refactor it now by creating a new function here. I will name it function resize emg, which take a photo. Inside this function I will do the work here. We'll copy all of this. Now, here I will replace author.photo with photo. Now, this resize image needs to return the blob object once it is created. Since this function is an async function, I need to return a promise that returns the blob function. So this actually operation needs to be wrote in a promise and returned. To be able to do this, it needs to be outside, of course, of this callback for the onload. It needs to be here and wrapped in a promise that I will return. The promise accept, of course, a function with two parameters, resolve and reject. Now in our case only we'll use the resolve, and if I pass here the code inside the callback I can resolve with the blob object. So anyone using this function can await the promise to be resolved and receive the blob object. Now, another callback that we need to solve also by creating another function. I will name the function create emg, and I need here the src for the image. So I will grab all this code here. Again, the same technique for this callback. I need to wrap it inside a promise. Here I will use both resolve and reject. Now, in case the image is loaded, I will resolve and send and return the image. In case there's an error, I will reject and return the error. Now I will call this the image here. Image with the source, which will be author.photo. Now I need to await for this function because it returns a promise. I need to await for the promise to be resolved or rejected. Now, to be able to await, I need this function to make it async. Next, I need also to store the returned image in a constant. I will call it image. Now I can proceed by drawing the image in the canvas context and resizing it appropriately. Once done, now I can generate a blob from the canvas, returning a new promise. Here in my code, also I need to await for a promise that is returned by resize image function that accept photo that I need to send to create image in its turn. So I will give it the author.photo, which is the base64 image file. As you remember, all of this process we are doing here is to resize the image. So to be able to save the image, we are using the canvas. Now canvas doesn't accept base64 format, but it accepts an HTML image. So that's why we have created a new image object DOM and assign it the base64 as its source to draw it into the canvas. Now, after resizing the image as we need in the canvas, we are generating a blob from the canvas. This blob now can easily be saved to Firebase. Let's save it now to Firebase. Let's first test to make sure everything is working. Oh, here it is, an error. On line 19, we have photo is not defined. Oh, we name it source. Let's name it photo. Big mistake. This needs to be a function. Same here. Now here we get the error in the parameter. One more thing, I need to make sure that I'm receiving a blob, so I will store it in a constant blob and console.log the blob just to make sure I'm getting a blob. So let's choose any image and let's add. First, here it is, the image cropped from the middle, and here is my blob object file. Now, as I told you, here the canvas is temporary just to see our result. Now I need to remove this canvas and generate one programmatically. Here in the resize image function, I will create a constant canvas which will be generated with JavaScript. Document dot create element canvas, and I will remove this canvas. Now I need also to set the width and height programmatically. Canvas dot width will be 250. The same for the height. Again, let's give it a try. Oh, let's remove it from our document. Alright, now let's choose a file like this one here and add. I see here is my blob ready to be saved to Firestore. Now one more thing I need to refactor before moving to saving the image to Firestore is this code. I need to abstract the calculation of the image position into its own function. So here what I need is to create a function that returns the positioning of the image. So I can name it let's say cropper or square center crop. So this function of course will take an image and will return the position. So I can use it as like this. Position.x position.y position.w width for width, position.h for height. So it will be more clearer for a developer or for me if I get back to the code after a long time to understand that here I'm calculating the image coordination or position for the context draw image. So let's create this function. Now this function will do the same work done here. So it will calculate the proportion. Now here I need to create some variable. Let x, y, w, h. In the first case, if the width is larger than the height, we calculate the width. The height will be 250. The x will be this calculation, and the y will be 0. Same here. Now we can assign actually the default for each variable. I mean 0, 0. The width by default 250, 250. So here if it's, we can remove the default assignment. Now here we have to calculate the height and the y, which will be this calculation here. Now for the 250 I can pass it as also as a parameter. So I will name it size. So here will be, instead of 250, I will use the size. Okay, now we'll return an array of x, y, w, and h. Now here it needs to be 0, 1, 2, and 3. But what we can do is, as we are doing here, destructure the items of the array into variables. So instead of having here position, we can destructure x, y, width, and w and h, and we'll use them here. X, y, w, and h. Now we can remove this code here. Let's keep it for now, just to make sure that everything is working. Now to see the result, I will add the canvas again. Alright, now to see that the cropping is working as expected, oh, I forgot to give a function a name. Here I need to send the img and the size. Now if I reload and try to see if the size is working properly, it's working. Let me choose another size like this one. Let me reload. Let me choose a wide image to see if it's also working as expected. Perfect. It is cropped in the middle. And let me choose now a squarish image, something like this one, or about this one, 600 by 600. If I add, also it is working perfectly. Another test again is, let's say that one. Now we have everything working as expected. Let's clean up this file. And then start the upload process to Firebase. Now, first thing, we need to get a reference to our Google storage with Firebase. So we'll create a constant storage ref, which will be equal to Firebase dot storage, which is a function we need to call, dot ref, which also another function that we need to call. Now we have a storage to the Google storage root. Next, we need to get a reference to a specific path in the storage, or directly to a specific name. So we need to here generate the name. What we can do is also constant image ref, which will be equal to storage ref dot child, Now we'll specify images slash author slash, here we need to specify the image name which will be generated using the using timestamp by using the date.now, which will return a timestamp of the current time .jpg. Now we use the put function to actually upload the image using the image ref dot put. Inside the put we'll specify the blob file and an object that specifies the metadata. Here we'll just specify the content type of the file, which will be image slash JPEG. Now we'll assign the returned value of this operation to a constant called upload task. Now with the upload task we can listen on changes, so upload task dot on state changed, and then we specify three functions. The first one will be for tracking the progress, the second one for capturing any errors, and the third one for when the task is complete. So we start with the first function, which will get a snapshot The snapshot contains some information for the progress. The second function, which will return any error, and the third function when the task is complete. So we'll start by the progress here. We can get the progress with a variable. We will call it progress. The progress will be a percentage of snapshot dot byte transferred minus snapshot dot total byte multiplied with 100 to get the percentage. So here we can show the percentage in the console. For the error, we check the code, so we add a switch to e.code. If it's storage slash unauthorized, we'll console dot error unauthorized. Okay, just the keyword unauthorized. If it's an unknown error, we'll console dot error e dot server response. I forget to add the break, and here break. Now this is for the error. Now here, once it's done, I can get the actual image URL with upload task dot snapshot dot ref dot get download URL, which is a promise that I need to await. Once it's done, I get the download URL, which I can use it to console.log the URL, download URL, download URL. So this will save the actual image to Google storage. Once it is saved, I need also to set the author to author and replace the photo with the download URL. Now I will remove the return here to allow the code to continue. Plus I need to also edit one more thing. Now let's try it to see if it's working as expected. Now if I reload and create a new author, new doe, let's choose an image, and here we'll add lorem. If I add, I get an error, storage is not a function. Alright, it seems that we need, in our setup of Firebase, as we are importing the Firestore, we need to import the Firebase / storage to be able to use the storage function from Firebase. So let's try again. So it seems we have an error here. First we got unauthorized, then we got the invalid nested entity. Let's go to our console, Firebase console, and check our storage for our book sleep application. So here we have the storage. First we see that there is no file. We check the rules and we see that we have here a rule that prevents us from adding a photo, prevents the user from adding a photo unless he is authorized. So just for testing here, we replace this with true. Allow anybody to upload an image. So now let's try it again. New doe, choose a file and lorem. Now if I add, I get the image here, and successfully I have saved the object. Let's open the image. Here it is. It is also resized as we specify. Now if I go to my storage in my console, in my Firebase console, I see that there is an image folder with an author folder containing the image as we name it here, the timestamp. Now if I go to my cloud Firestore, I can see that I have a book with 3 authors. Now the third author has the base 64 image, which is not what we want. The mistake we did here is that we are not waiting for the image to be uploaded to continue the rest of the code. So this code need to move inside the function where the upload is finished, and this function need to be also async again. So let's try to add another author. Let's say Jim Doe. Let's choose a file like this one, and let's add. Here is our image. Now, oh, we got an error here. So let's say we save the name separately. So we create constant photo name, which will be equal to this string here, and we'll use the photo name constant for both, and we'll try to upload again. Alright, the photo has been uploaded. Okay, so what is happening? Here is the state, here is the photo, here is the description. Let's try creating here a new object with the author variable, and the photo we'll set it to photo name, and we'll get rid of this code here that changed the state. And let's console.log first this object here to make sure that we are saving the right object. Alright, so if I go check my console now, I see a new author has been added with the right link. Now, what was happening here is the set author is delayed, so we're saving the old author. So this is firing before the set author. By building the object here, it will guarantee the photo will be changed. Since we don't need the photo, we're not using the photo here in this component. So I will remove here the set author. Now here I can keep the photo name, or I can put the wall URL. This way it will be easy to use it in my application. Back to my console, I will delete this author, of course, and this one too. Alright, now I'm back to author. Let's reload and make sure they are deleted. Alright, again let's add another one. Let's say Jim. Alright, here is Jim Dowie. Now let's start by refactoring some of this code here. Our first and quick refactor will be, instead of using the then, we'll use here await, and we make this function async to be able to use the await, and we store the result of this operation in a constant called download URL. So now we remove this callback here and here. This way our procedure is clearer. We remove the console.log. Next we'll be working on the delete functionality here. Once we delete an author, we also need to delete the image associated with the author in case there is an image. So if I go back to book author, the single author here, I see I have the handle delete function that delete an author. Here, after I delete an author, I can also delete its image. Now if I go again visit my console, my Firebase console, and go to my project bookslib, then to Cloud Firestore, our database, I can see here that I'm saving the image as a link, but I prefer to save the reference. This way we can easily manipulate the image from deleting to fetching to all this stuff. So in the book authors, where I'm saving the author and using the link as the photo stored, so I will use, instead of the link here, I have the photo name, which use the reference that is applied here in the storage ref. So I will use this path. Now if I go and save an author, new Doe, and choose any image, Lorem, come on, Lorem. Okay, I got my new author. Now let me check. Now I have here the reference string. So knowing that I have the reference path, now I need to first create in my book author a storage reference, which will be constant storage ref, which will be equal to Firebase dot storage. Alright, dot ref. Remember that in order to be able to use the storage function of the Firebase, you need to include it here in the setup Firebase, as we did for the Firestore. So I have the ref. I will rename this to image ref, because I will go all the way to get the image directly. Now the child will take the reference path that we have in the author object, so it will be author dot photo dot delete. Now this is an async function. Once it's done, we can use the then or the await, but in our case we don't need to store anything because it. So let's add the await to wait for the image. Once it's deleted, then we'll dispatch and add the toast. Now in case if an error has been returned from the image, we'll be notified because we are using the try catch block. What I see best is to put the delete image at the beginning. So in case there's an error here, it will stop the execution. Okay, let's save now. Now I will delete the author with the URL image. One more thing I forgot, I need to check if the author.photo is not empty. Alright, let's give it a try. So here now I have the new Doe, which has the photo saved in the database. Alright, let's try it. If I delete new Doe, this is good. Now Jim Doe. Now these two don't have a photo. Let's try Mark Doe. It is gone without any error. If I go to my storage, let's delete the whole list of photos. Alright, let's upload a new author, Jim Doe. Let's choose a file, this one, and let's add it. It is successfully added here. If we go, I'll go back to my storage. I can see that there's a new photo. Now if I try to delete Jim Doe, Jim Doe has been deleted successfully. And if I go to my storage and reload, I'll see that the file has been gone. Another time, if we try also adding Jimdoe again to make sure that it is working. If I add again Jimdoe, added successfully. Now if I check my database, I'll see that there is an image. Now if I delete Jimdoe, and the image has gone from our Google storage. So this is great. Now we have the delete working properly. Now let's go and style the form. Remember that we have the form displayed using the field UI component. If we go to our UI component, to the field function, we see that we have a styled div that is wrapping a styled label and the input here. What I can do quickly now, I can display the parent here, the styled div, as a flex. Display flex. Alright, and for the label I can add a minimum width. Let's say 150 pixel. It's too much, 120. 100. Now I can also add a border button. With a padding button, 20 pixel. Now for the figure element here, by default it takes some padding. I can reset this element in my global CSS file, style.css. So I'll set figure element to always have margin 0 as default. Now this style we are doing apply to all other form too. I see here that the label is large, and then we'll add the space here, the width of the label to 140. Alright, maybe 50 is, or 60. It worked better. Or we can keep it 140, but instead of using minimum width, we'll use the width. This way the text will be in two line in case it is larger than the width of the label. Alright. Now for the input, here in my global CSS, I can style the input type equal text to have a specific height of, let's say, 28 maybe. Alright. And as you can see here, the select and the input are affected by the flex rule. So back in my book author, back in my field, I will wrap here the child, which usually is an input, with the div, so the flex will work on the div, not on the input. This way the input take its back its normal height. Here I will remove the text in case if it's number or date, so it is applied to all the input. So if I check also the author form, now for the text area I will set a minimum width of, let's say, 200 pixel, and the height, the minimum height 100 and let's say 20 pixel. All right, we can increase a little bit the width, 20 pixel. All right, this is it. Now let's check the other form that allow us to add book. Also it's working great. Now one more thing we need to do is, for the other list we need to display the image and style a little bit the look. So let's add a couple of other with images. Now we'll style this list of author to include the profile image and the description. Now let's work on the authors list and add the profile image and the description and position them into a grid. So we go to book author. Here we are displaying a single author in the list. First we'll replace the P into a div, and inside the div will be a 3-column layout. The first column will be for the photo, the second column for the name and the description, and the third one for the delete. So the first column will be a figure that contains the image. Now we need to specify the source of the image. Here in the author we have stored the photo as a Google storage photo reference. Now in able to retrieve the URL that need to be to act as the source of the image, we need to have an asynchronous process that will need to be contained inside a use effect, and we have to create a state for it. So instead of doing all this work just to display the image inside an image tag, I will change the way the image is stored in the database to include a full URL instead just the reference. So now if I add an author, let's say Jim Doe, and choose an image and copy a text. If I go to my database and check the new author, it will have a reference to the image, not the full URL. I need to change this. And go back to my book authors, here where I'm storing the author into the database. I need to change the photo value from photo name to the download URL. This way, when I add an author, the photo will contain the full download URLs that I can use directly in the image tag. So let's add now again an author. Let's choose any image. Now if I add, all right, and check my database, I see I have stored the full URL. Let's add also another. Now, as you can see, the form should be cleared. In our case, it is not. So once I successfully persisted an author to the database, here I'm adding a toast. I'm removing the loading from the button and dispatching an action. So I need to reset the form by changing the author to an empty object. Here I can set author to this empty object again. Now if I reload and add another author, let's say new doorway, and choose an image for it. If I add, alright, successful, I have the form reset. Still, I have the image here I need to remove. Now for the image, it's in the author form. Here is my image. It relies on the profile EMG, which is changed here on the handle file. What I can do is check the author dot photo. If it's not empty, if it's empty, so I need to use the ternary condition. So I'll check if it's empty, I'll put image profile, else I will set it to author.photo. So if I reload and use Mike Dewey and change the photo to, let's say, this image here, okay, I got it. If I save, the form and the photo has been reset. So let's review our handle file function here. What is it doing? Now, since we're relying on the photo property here of the set author, of the author state, we don't need to anymore to set the image manually here. Plus, we don't need the image ref at all. So I will remove the use ref here, and I will remove it also from here, the image ref constant. Plus, in the image, I will remove the attribute ref. So let's make sure all is good. Let's add Ron Dewey and choose an image. And a description. If I add, all is good. Perfect. Now let's go to our book author and place the image for an author here that will display beside its name. So here, since in our database we have changed the image value to a URL, we can rely on that to display an image using the EMG tag. So I can here just type author.photo, which will Alright, so here it seems we're getting the large version of the image. We need to change this by setting the author.photo to the image saved in Google. So remember here, in the book author where we are saving the author, we need to set not the author, but the main author here. Okay, the author in the main book state. So here we're sending the author as is. So before actually reset the current author, I will dispatch a new object author and override the photo with the new URL here. This way, oh sorry, here it should be author. Alright, this way I'm creating a new object, a new author object that contain all the element of the current author plus the photo download URL photo. So then I will reset the current author state. This will change the dispatch here, will change the main book state. So now if I save and retry again, let's reload. Alright, let's remove this author here. Alright, I think I have error in the delete author. Here I have updated the photo to include the full URL instead of the reference path, but I haven't updated the delete function that delete an author and its image, which was relying on the author.photo to be a reference path. Now we have a URL, full URL. Luckily for us, we have a function for this, which is called ref from URL, which gets a reference to the image from its URL. We don't need this ref here. Directly ref from URL will get the image. So if I delete now an author, it will be deleted successfully. Now here, concerning the error in the console about unique key for the author list, if I go to the author list, it's in the book authors. Here I'm adding a key with the author.name, but it's complaining about the same key Jim Dewey for some reason. What I can do is add also an index. So Jim Dewey plus the index. This way it will guarantee that we have unique keys for each element. Now back to our book author. We will start working on displaying each row properly. So for the image, we will set the width. We will restrict the width to 100 or 90. Then for the author name, we'll wrap it in a div, and the name will be wrapped in an H5. Then we have the descriptions that will be in the same block and will be wrapped in a paragraph. Here, author dot description. Now for the delete button, delete link, we will wrap it in a div. So here it is now. Next we need to stack them one after another. But before doing that, I see here that John Doe doesn't have a photo. What I will do, if an author doesn't have a photo, I will place the default profile photo. So here I will check if author.photo not empty string. Then I will place author.photo as the image source, else I will place the photo I have here stored on in the project, the profile placeholder. First I'll import the profile dash place holder.png. Now I'll use this in case a profile doesn't have, in case an author doesn't have a photo. So here, like John Doe, I will get a default photo. Now I need to place this in a grid, to style this into a grid. To do this, I will rely on the parent element of the list, and for the individual element I will remove the div wrapper. So I will put an empty element that is provided by React, because I need the element to be direct child to the parent div element that will be displayed as a CSS grid. So here, to display this as a CSS grid, I need first to import our styled component library. Import styled from styled component, and I will replace the parent div with a, let's say, constant grid div, which will be equal to styled.div. Here I'll place my CSS rule. First it will be display grid. Next we'll have the grid template columns. For the first column it will be 90 pixel, the same size as the image width. For the second column, the description, the title and the description, it will be auto. And the third one will be something like 50 pixel. Then we'll add a gap 20 pixel by 20 pixel. Last thing, we'll restrict the max width of the wall grid, so it will not fill the whole desktop browser. So I will add max width to, let's say, 600, and I will use this component grid div, which should be capital letter for the first character, and replace here my div. So if I check here, I see the grid started to showing. Now we have here in the H5 element have a margin top that I need to get rid. We'll do this in the global style sheet here. We'll remove the margin top for all our headers, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Margin top will be 0. Alright, now I will add some size for the headers. For the H1 it will be the font size for the H1 will be 30 pixel. For the H2 the font size will be 26 pixel. For the H3 the font size will be 21 pixel or 24 pixel. For the H4 it will be 18 pixel or 21 pixel. The H5 the font size will be 18 pixel. Lastly, for the H6 it will be 16 pixel. Alright, now Here is our list styled. Now we need to add some separator here, proper separator with the proper spacing. Currently we are using, if we go to the book authors, we are using an HR. Here it is. Now I will replace this HR with a component named divider. And I will import it from my UI folder. Alright, which I will create it now. So in my UI folder I will create a new file named divider, which will be a functional component. That will return a div element. Let me export first. Export default divider. Using my styled component, I will style this divider. I create a constant styled div, which will be equal to styled.div. Here I will style this div to have a margin top of 30 pixel, bottom 30 pixel, and will have a height of 2 pixel, a background color of light gray. Then I will replace my div here with the styled div. Now if I save, let's export the divider from our index file. So I'll import divider. Oh, one mistake is that styled div need to have the first character capital in order to be recognized as a custom component. Alright, here is our divider looking great. Let me check here. My global style H3 is 24 pixel. Alright, and this one is H2. H2 I will make it 28 pixel, and H1 32. Now I will limit the size of the description here to 100 character. If I go now in my book author, here is my description. I need a function that I can name, let's say excerpt, that I call excerpt, and it will create an excerpt of this long text. So this function currently doesn't exist. I need to create it, so I will create now a new folder that will contain a JavaScript functions. I will name the folder functions. Now inside this folder I will create a file called stringfn.js that will represent string functions. Here I will create a function called excerpt, which will get a text and will return the text dot substring of 0 and let's say 100 character. Now I will export an object with all the function available in this file. For now it's 1. I will go to my book author and I will import this function. I see the text has been limited in size. Now I need to add at the end 3 dot. Here I can add plus dot dot dot, which is working. I can make a check for the text dot length to see if it's larger than 100. Then if it's larger, I will return this string here. If not, I will return the same text. Else, just the text, because as you can see here, the string is not trimmed, but I have the 3 dot, which is not nice. So with this check here, I'll ensure that if the string is not trimmed, I don't have the 3 dot, only for the ones that are trimmed. All right. We can go further with this function and remove words that are trimmed in the middle. For now, I'll keep it simple like this. So that's it for this part of our BookLib application. In the next part, we'll be working on the photo for a book. It will feature a drag and drop multiple image upload. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Subscribe to my channel to be notified each time I publish a new video.